This episode is going to truly inspire you to fight not only for what you love to do, but also for the right to actually do what you love.
I was on a show called Say Yes to the Dress. Years later, things that didn't actually factor into that original contract came into play. That actually resulted in a federal lawsuit against me. I was unable to use my birth name in any business or commerce or even to publicly identify. That led into a 4-year litigation period, all just about a contract dispute.
You changed the law.
And one element of my case was around the social media. Hasn't been a lot of case law that you can refer to because social media is really so new. It took us 2 trips to the appellate court to prove the ownership of that account. This is a case now that future cases can refer to and look at. So it ended up being my ownership. It's exciting to have my original account back.
Hi, my name is Andrea, and besides of being recently married, I own the leading company in bouquet preservation in the world. It is when connecting with my clients that I felt the need to serve them and help them navigate this new and exciting journey. On this podcast, we bring you everything you need to know to plan the wedding of your dreams. We'll be featuring conversations with top wedding vendors and valuable tips and advice from real couples. Whether you're engaged or simply love, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's get started on this journey to your perfect wedding day. Welcome to the club, to Bridal Club. Welcome back to another episode of Bridal Club. Today we're diving into the bridal world of fashion, creativity, and resilience with the one and only Hayley Paige, a designer whose name shines with sparkle, soul, and reinvention. From saying yes to the dress to launching new ventures and advocating for artists' rights, Hayley has completely redefined what it means to rise, rebuild, and create with heart. This may be our shortest episode yet. Consider it a mini dress moment, short, sweet, and absolutely stunning. Help me welcome Hayley Paige.
Welcome back to Bridal Club. You guys are in for a treat today. I have somebody who has been fighting for her name. I know you may not comprehend what this means. A lot of people would not unless you go through something like she did. This episode is going to truly inspire you to fight not only for what you love to do, but also for the right to actually do what you love. Hayley, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I would love for you to tell our audience who may not be super familiar with your story, who you are and how you started.
Sure. I am a wedding dress designer, and that is a passion I have followed for most of my life through education and even industry experience. And I was lucky to have a grandmother that taught me to sew and really exposed me to a lot of creative elements that led me on that path. And I always say when you have a calling, it'll keep calling you. I went into this beautiful chapter of my career where I had my namesake collection and I was designing for thousands of beautiful brides. I was on a show called Say Yes to the Dress. And it actually all kind of came from a contract that I signed in 2011 when I was 25 without a lawyer. And years later, tons of circumstances later, and things that didn't actually factor into that original contract came into play. And I found myself negotiating for a better contract back in the beginning of 2019. And that actually resulted in a federal lawsuit against me where I was unable to use my birth name in any business or commerce or even to publicly identify. I had to turn over my social media passwords that bared my name. And I also was under a unpaid non-compete. So I was just kind of gripping with the terms of what this contract really meant and the interpretations of it. And that led into a 4-year litigation period, all just about a contract dispute. So it was a very challenging time. And of course, as a designer and a creator, you always look for new ways to kind of reinvent yourself or find new mediums to express yourself. So I did that. I started a new brand called She is Cheval, which was a non-competitive shoe category, accessories category. And then I changed my name publicly to Cheval. All the while I was still fighting for my rights and my name and my ability to design again. And that resulted in actually a really positive settlement that I ended up purchasing the intellectual property back in 2004. So we just got everything back. We just relaunched Hayley Paige Bridal, and I'm just so excited. This is my twice upon a time era.
I don't think most people will understand unless they go through it. My husband and I were actually talking about the good fight. My family got kidnapped in Mexico, so I actually had to come here from absolutely nothing. And again, starting from scratch is It's harder than most people think, you know. It's I love success stories, of course we all do, but when it comes to doing it again and fighting for your rights to do what you love is just so crucial. And I love that you are sharing this story with the world. I would love for you to tell our audience basically what you went through because you were only 25, is that what you said?
I really just saw it as a survival method and wanting to not feel victimized by a situation. And first of all, I'm so sorry that your family went through that. That is very jarring and in no way compares to, just simply losing your name or losing your ability to work. But for me, I think it really was just kind of looking at it from an accountability standpoint of these are the facts. This is what has kind of happened. I only have so much control when you're in a federal court and everything is being scrutinized. And so I really took the approach of what I have left and what I could do as opposed to what had been taken. And I think that's just a good message in general for people is, to really be present in the moment and be grateful for the things that you do have. And when you lack resources, where can you be resourceful? That was just helpful and a healthier mindset for me because I think a lot of times when we go back and feel tethered to the past, it becomes a bit depressing and hard to break out of. And then if you're living too far in the forward, you're anxious and you're
Yes.
trying to control things that haven't even happened yet. So it really is that present moment of what can we do now?
You changed the law.
The case law was a really exciting element and pretty poetic actually because in the beginning, when we were first in a federal lawsuit, there's so much nuance to it. There's so many moving parts. And one element of my case was around the social media. And there really hasn't been a lot of case law
Mm.
that you can refer to because social media is really so new. And
Right.
so they were really looking at the whole like IP of it and where it belongs and who owns what from a number of different facets. And it took us 2 trips to the appellate court to prove the ownership of that account. And what it ended up coming down to was actually basic property law, which is very exciting because anyone that is a creator or uses their social media, both personally and professionally, it will benefit. This is a case now that future cases can refer to and look at for determining ownership of an actual social media account because it is, in a way, its own asset or its own property. It basically came down to who opened the account and was the account ever transferred via a contract. And in my case, it was not. So
Wow.
it ended up being my ownership, which I'm very grateful for.
And now you have like 5 different social media accounts. How do you even manage them all? Oh my goodness.
I do have a lot. It's a lot to manage. And it's kind of hard because I don't want to be throwing too much out there and get that fatigue on people, but it's exciting to have my original account back.
Yeah. So your story is incredibly inspiring for so many of us, truly. I wanted to also talk to you about what your dresses are like. You see one of your dresses and you know exactly who the designer was. They're so feminine, they're a little bit of fun, but just so sophisticated as well. Tell us more about what inspired you to start your collections since day one.
Yes, well, I appreciate you saying that. And just dress designing in general has always brought me a lot of joy, but it's also been a something that I've seen as a way to communicate with people and where I've found my own confidence and credibility over time. I'm just so inspired by it every day. And it's something that I gravitate toward almost innately. And that's a really wonderful thing is to have this passion for something and to practice at it and see yourself progressing. And then also to have this enormous support system and the response to it, because so much of what I do is really collaborative. I think from a designer's perspective, you always want to kind of have that perspective and have that unique voice or expression that carries through the dresses and builds out your aesthetic. And of course, it's always evolving. I think for me, I've always focused on not wanting to bring sand to the beach because it is a very diluted market. And so I've never really shied away from doing something that is truly special and unique or, a rainbow dress or something that just speaks to fewer rather than the masses. And that's kind of where you find the riches are in the niches kind of thing. But anything goes when it comes to design. It is a true art form. And while so much of the commerce and the product of it changes. The process itself and what you're actually doing in creating a dress to fit a woman's moment doesn't change. That is something that is really at the core what this artistic form is. And so I've always really been invested in that aspect of what I do.
What is your vision for your brand and for your name?
Well, I have a hard time with thinking too far ahead, especially because I've been fighting so much for my ability to get here now. And now that I'm here, I kind of want to just be really in this moment and not be too focused on, oh gosh, I got to go build this empire and I got to do a million other things and I want a license. And, of course, there's all these things that I'm very open to. But I think what I'm trying to do for the most part is really take a beat and be like, wow, I get to do this again. And here's this amazing bride that's looking for a great dress. And, to kind of be really mindful of all that has happened to get here, and not be in too big of a hurry.
I love that you said that actually twice already, because be in the moment and truly be grateful for what you have today. That's truly beautiful. I would love for you to talk more about the Girl You Might Know Foundation.
I launched a Girl You Might Know Foundation on International Women's Day 2 years ago, and it really came out of a necessity in all I was facing in the legal world, because there was a lot wrong with contract law and interpretation. And I was realizing that a bigger conversation needed to be had. I'm not the first person that has been in this kind of a scenario, and there are a lot of derivative challenges that come with protecting your art or your IP, and young designers or artists or singers just not knowing the gravity of what these contracts can mean for you, especially in the future when you get out there and your art form is being appreciated and it's being capitalized on. How can you make sure to set the best precedent for yourself when you're not a business person and you don't have a legal background and you don't know what to foresee? And so the premise of it is really to build a foundation and an advocacy for that exact type of person who needs a little extra support and some wherewithal and clarity to kind of protect themselves. We have three elements to the foundation that we try to keep at the core, which is one, provide funding for young entrepreneurs or artists that are in need of financial support. We also have a Rolodex of attorneys that do pro bono or low bono to kind of help with whether it's contract law or building out templates of your business. And then the third element is really just curriculum and experience-based content. So storytelling, sharing stories like mine so that you put it out there. It's always great to learn from your own mistakes, but if you can learn from other people's mistakes, perhaps you'll be that much further along.
You guys probably have heard of Taylor Swift redoing her whole album. That is basically another example of exactly what Hayley went through and why she is fighting against this phenomenon. Your dresses, as you mentioned, they're very unique, and I feel like whenever people are drawn to them, they just want your dresses for a very specific reason.
I'm somebody that really believes in staying close to the fire. So I try to be really mindful of how I'm showing up and a little bit of quality over quantity, but ultimately it's always craft over clicks for me.
Yeah, thank you again so much for your time. And I know how busy you are. You have a lot of trunk shows going on right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea.
Bye.
Learn about all things wedding straight from the experts. Be sure to like and subscribe to Bridal Club.